back again. What are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about how do we categorize this? Seaweed? Kelp? I guess we'll learn when we talk to Logan here.
Excellent. Welcome to the Edible Valley Podcast.
We want to invite you as we embark on a culinary journey through the heart of Vancouver Island.
From the fertile fields
to the pristine waters of the Pacific Ocean.
We'll explore the stories behind the food that nourishes us.
Tune in to each episode as we deep dive into the flavors, the traditions, and the innovations that make this a true paradise.
Now please join us as we explore our Edible Valley. Another episode of the Edible Valley.
Yeah, it feels a little weird. Will isn't here from a bit of a clerical error of mine. Mark on it. Feels weird.
Oh yeah, I know.
It with him.
We got to bring that energy level up today.
All right. So with us today we've got Logan Zeinert.
Yeah.
Zeinert. How are you doing, Logan?
I'm great.
Great.
Yeah.
And you come to us with a body of knowledge of kelp and seaweed and potentially food applications thereof.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say a body of knowledge, more like a couple of legs, but
great.
Yeah, like I've been in the aquaculture world for a few years now, and seaweed is one of the things that we're looking at North Island College, and they've been looking at it for a little while before I've started there. Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. It's really interesting. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, yeah, and that's sort of what we want to talk about is how does this relate to food? How is food going to factor in the future, or how is seaweed, kelp, aquaculture, how is that going to factor into our food?
This is super exciting for me because this is something that I don't have a firm grasp of, even though I've grown up in this area and I've cooked with seaweed numerous times. Yeah. It's still something that I'm still experimenting with, and I'm still trying to find my niche market and how I can actually really do some amazing things with it. So picking your brain and learning a little bit today could be a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess we'll start at the start of what happens when you're actually trying to like farm seaweed or
that sounds great.
How's that sound?
Yeah, that sounds perfect. Let's go from how do we get this onto the plate?
Yeah, absolutely. Around the world, it's a pretty common method to just put a line in the water, mostly done with horizontal lines. They basically float them 3 or 4 meters underneath the water. Those lines are seeded with a spool of kelp, and they just wrap that line around the rope, and then that rope basically just sits there for 6 months. In BC, we'll put those lines in around November, December time,
right? And
then we'll be pulling those lines out around April, generally around April.
Oh yeah,
and that allows a good amount of time for growth, so you get a nice long, nice looking piece of seaweed. It also prevents fouling growth on it, so you get a nice clean piece of seaweed too.
Oh yeah.
So when you go out, you take your boat out, every now and then you'll be periodically checking it to make sure nothing out of the ordinary has happened. But around that April time in BC, you'll have basically your boat going alongside these lines, and you'll have a winch. That line will go over the winch, and you're just basically slicing off kelp.
Really?
And putting it in a tote and bring it back for processing.
Interesting. And then, so when you're processing it, you're just sort of cleaning it or portioning it, or
so there's a couple of different methods, I guess. I think the most common one around the world is it's cut off those lines and then it's just hung up to dry.
Right.
Often it's just hung outside, or people will do it kind of in like a greenhouse or just like a big shed, and they'll just leave it for 24, 48 hours to dry, and there's like a relative humidity that they're looking at getting it down to,
right?
And then that way it stores really well. The other options are like a more fresh approach. So it's harvested off those lines, it's brought back to like a processing facility, and for something like nori, it's kind of like swirled around in a vat and then shaped, dried, and you get your nori squares.
Right.
But for something fresh, quite often they'll take those fresh kelp blades and they'll blanch them.
Oh yeah.
And they go from like that kind of light browny, kind of like the tea color I
Yes.
have right here in front of me. So they'll go from like that tea color to a nice light green from that blanching, and that's like that traditional like.
Oh, really?
kelpy
So it
color.
gets to that vibrant green from the blanching.
Yeah, like a lot
yeah.
of the kelps that come out of the water are like that like light kind of tea brown color.
Right.
It doesn't look bad, but that light green is kind of more appealing.
Yes.
Well, yeah, like I have some wakame here, or what they use for wakame, and same thing. It blows me away how this relatively dark and brown, when you make wakame salad, it's vibrant green.
Yeah.
Interesting. But that's where I come at it from. Is that I used to have a sushi food truck way back when. There's so many things that Japanese have always been using seaweed for. I mean, aside from nori, which is key in a lot of what I was doing, so is kombu, because I was making my own dashi all the time, and it's literally one of 3 ingredients, or one of 2 ingredients that goes into dashi is kombu and bonito flakes. Really, I like to add shiitakes, but that's just.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they seem to have harnessed it a long time ago, because that's deep in their culture, all that food, and we're surrounded by the same seaweed, but haven't really taken note of it.
Yeah, and even here there's like some traditional use,
Right.
but very minimal compared to like what the Asian countries would be using it for. And like their harvest of seaweed is huge, and places like Canada or Australia are only kind of just getting in the groove of it, and
Just
it's
sort of
becoming
waking up.
like a real thing.
Is there health benefit? Are there benefits to it? Like,
Yeah.
I would think that there would have to be. Yeah.
Yeah, so in terms of like farming, you're putting something in the water and you're putting nothing else in the water. You're basically just putting it there and it grows. It's like
That's-
magic.
right.
So compared to, I guess, the big one is fish farming, where you're putting additives in the water
Right.
with even just like feeding your fish. You're adding
Right.
something to the water.
Which includes labor,
Yeah.
end product, and yeah.
Yeah, so for this, your labor is way less, but also you're just not adding any excess thing to the water. You're just leaving it there to grow. So
Right.
in terms of the environmental impacts, it's great. When you harvest it, and in terms of like the nutritional benefits,
Yeah.
it's also really, really good. Like it has a ton of micronutrients.
Oh,
in it.
really?
And yeah, and it's just like a fantastic end product.
Right. And so would you liken it, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but would you liken it to maybe other greens that we grow?
Vegetables?
Yeah, sure. I'm thinking greens. I'm thinking like salads. I'm thinking, leafy greens. But like, would you use it the same way? Would you make salads of it? Which I think that it would probably, because of its hardiness, because of, it's got a bit of a, from John's perspective as a chef that's exploring, I would think that you could also use it in hotter dishes. You know what I mean? It's going to hold up. It's not going to break down like.
I think
greens
it all
might.
depends on how you're using it.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. And there's
Yeah.
so many varieties of
That's the other thing,
seaweed
right?
out there that,
Yeah.
like it's not like one
There's one weed.
one weed that
Yeah.
does it all. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like the kind of the cool thing. Like there are a few that are very, very similar. So I know there's some people in Maine doing some harvest, and they have 2 different species they harvest. I was just watching a YouTube video the other day, and the lady was like, yeah, they just taste the same, but we use this for this and this for this.
Oh, yeah?
And so it's like 2 different uses for the same thing.
Right.
Right.
The cool thing about it is, in addition to like the use that you guys might have, there's some like little fringe uses as well.
Right.
So you might not necessarily use it for food, but you can say like ferment it, and people have made beer and spirits out of it.
What? I had no idea.
Yeah, like I think the brewery in Tofino has like a kelp stout, or had a kelp
Yeah.
stout.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, I was thinking of an oyster one down at
Yeah.
Spinnaker's, but yeah,
Yeah.
like it's amazing
I
those.
think it was Tofino, but
interesting.
anyway,
I
it's
made
pretty cool.
I made a bull kelp ice cream.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
John
was.
used to.
Oh, you
own
did
an-
an ice cream.
Yeah. So I used to own Blue Spruce ice cream, and so that was the one I would bring in some dried kelp, bull kelp,
Sweet.
and then I would just add it to a caramel ice cream, and just
Yeah.
by steeping it in the sugar and caramelizing a little bit. Yeah, it was interesting. It was beautiful, like it was really tasty, but it did have that little bit of a hint of seafood in the background,
Yeah.
which some people were like, "This is amazing," and other people's were, I think, maybe just because they said seaweed,
Right.
and I think that's
Yeah.
a bit of a maybe you can help clear that
actually,
up because people fear seaweed for some reason.
Also, I remember growing up and people would like there was this big mythical fact that was like, do you know there's seaweed in ice cream? And I think that was because they were pulling something from, I want to say carrageenan, but
that's exactly what it
is
is.
it? Yeah, they were getting the extract from seaweed, and so people were making that. Oh, it's in seaweed's in ice cream. But yeah.
It's used for, like there's so many side products it's used for like that as well.
Yeah.
So you have like the food and beverage industry, but
Right.
then you have like the kind of, I don't even know what you would call it, but it's like the carrageenan and like other stuff that they use for like pharmaceuticals and like cosmetics. Pull it all out of the seaweed.
Because it's a bit of a binding agent, right? Like, or it keeps things. It's the holding agent that it holds that they get from it. Yeah, and my brother, and his partner, they're master gardeners. They just have the most impeccable garden. And one of the things he does every year, seaweeds his garden at the end of the year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, turns a lot of seaweed into it at the very end of the year.
It's supposed to be really good for it. Right?
Yeah, it's great compost. He said it's just fantastic. It helps everything grow so much.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's all these other extra uses for it. I'm really curious to see if there's any current efforts like it. Are you seeing it in BC? Are things starting to wake up a bit? Are things starting to really embrace?
Absolutely, the farms are definitely starting to wake up. So the farming side, people have pretty down packed. You know, like the methodology is there, the permitting applications from DFO are there, so you can go out and get, you know, an area that you would want to do and set it up and harvest it. I think the part where BC is lacking a bit here is the processing.
Oh, yeah.
And post-harvest kind of stuff. So what do you do with it after you've harvested? Do you dry it? Do you wash it? Do you blanch it? Where do you do that? How close is that to the farms? Quite a lot of them are on the North Island, so where do you set up a place like this?
Right.
And that's where a lot of the research right now is looking at.
Yeah.
Where do you do this? How do you do it? What's the best way? Do you do it on a boat? Do you set up like something else? Do you have, you know, like some kind of mobile processing unit?
Oh yeah.
Do you dry them on site? So imagine you're like way up in, you know, like Central Coast having really great success. Do you have to set up like a wharf where you can dry it?
Right.
How long can you store it for? How do you get it back? You know, like that's a long way.
Yeah, there's a lot of logistics.
Well, that's a big question for me. Do you know what the shelf life on fresh seaweed is, or is that like?
Yeah, I think the stuff that we have right now is like if you want to use it like straight off the line with no processing, it's pretty short. Like I don't think it's much more than 48 hours.
Really?
Wow.
You know, I definitely could be wrong, but I seem to remember a number like that somehow. So
I might be deviating a bit here. As John touched on before, there's not just one seaweed. There's multiple types. What seems to be growing best or is best harvested in BC?
yeah, I think most people are looking at sugar kelp.
Oh yeah.
Which I think is called Saccharina. I always get them mixed up. Like those Latin names. The ones that we have worked with are Saccharina alaria.
Okay.
Those are the two species that we work with around, quite a bit at North Island College. But I think the bull kelp is another species.
And so for the layman, bull kelp is the one that's got the bulbous end and the long tail.
Yeah.
Right. And then the others are the leafy green that you're talking.
They're both like still long and like that laminate kind of
Oh,
shape.
yeah. Oh, like the one that's almost like a sheet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So that's the Saccharina.
Okay.
And then the alaria has like a line down the middle. It's alaria marginata. That's the easiest way to remember it.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a leaf where it's got that central.
like, kind of like that central.
Oh, yeah.
Thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to thank Cosmo for giving me a tip on how to remember that one. Yeah. Yeah. So those are probably the three biggest ones. There are lots and lots of other different species that are around here that have potential.
Right.
So there are like some of those smaller, leafier ones that have potential, but I don't think anyone's really explored those yet.
Right. And so if, let's say, the average listener right now is now thinking, oh, look at the wonderful properties of seaweed, and they're down at the beach, encourage or discourage them from harvesting a little off the beach?
I mean, if you find a piece that looks really nice and fresh and you can tell what species it is,
right,
I would encourage you to have a nibble on some sugar kelp.
Right.
But otherwise, you
Probably
should
not.
probably just use it for your garden because
Right.
it doesn't have a shelf life. So
Right.
if it's been sitting there for a day,
So
Yeah,
that
yeah.
big pile that's been sitting on the
yeah,
the sun.
yeah. Oh man, yeah.
Crabs are running around.
Can't
it.
imagine that it would
Yeah.
be
No.
that tasty.
No,
you know,
no.
you might
Yeah.
put yourself off for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
just to make sure that people aren't running down and filling their
Yeah,
pockets.
I think if you know what you're looking for and you can like go down to, you know, like your local tide pool and find a couple of species of kelp and
Yeah.
you can probably, you know, like take it and,
Yeah.
you know, give it a shot.
Do you know of any? Are there any sort of user-friendly resources that somebody could find online?
I'm not
forewarn you
hugely
that-
familiar
Yeah.
with like a lot of the like cooking resources and stuff like that, especially for the species that we have around here. Mm-hmm. But you know, like there are like something similar to like a kelp chip or like something similar to a nori is really easy to make, and there
yeah.
are a couple of species around here. Top of my head, I know it starts with a P, but it's like
Yeah.
a similar genus to what you would find that they make nori with over in Asia.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like same genus, just a different species. So
Right.
very, very similar. And basically all you're doing is like harvesting it, taking it home, cleaning it up with some water, putting a little bit of oil on it, and then just baking it in the oven.
Like,
for,
sort of
nice
like
long
how
flat
people make
sheet.
kale chips or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly. So you can make those really
I'm
easily.
gonna try that out.
Yeah.
I love trying. I love experimenting. So I'm gonna try that
Now,
out for
I'm
sure.
just wondering, do you need a fishing license or anything to harvest?
Right, you
seaweed
mentioned
in DC?
DFO, Department of Fisheries and Oceans.
I know
Yeah.
you're probably out of your field, but
You're the scientist. You're not the.
If you're doing like an actual farm, I know you definitely do.
Yes.
If you're doing like local harvest, I don't know. I don't want to get anyone in
That would-
trouble.
that
but
would
I
be something
definitely
I
say
would-
that we should check.
yeah,
Yeah.
Google that one. And DFO, can I pick seaweed?
Yeah.
Well-
Can I take this off the beach? Yeah.
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 And I've been lucky in my career to experiment with seaweed over a bunch of times, and I did the Shellfish Festival. I did actually I've done it a couple times as the
So
bowl
how
of
have you
kelp.
found?
Well, I find the lifespan is difficult because you have to bring it in, and if you bring it in, you either have to dry it right away or you have to definitely blanch it, and then it gives you a little bit more life. I've done really well with bringing it in and doing lots of chutneys. So like bull kelp
yeah.
chutney, so
Cool.
dicing up the fronds and actually taking the whole bulb and mixing that down and cooking it because it's pretty fibrous. So, but a good long cook, it moistens it up.
Yeah.
And it goes beautifully with nice seared halibut. So, but yeah, and then doing broths are always a beautiful because just releasing some of those flavors into it, especially from dried seaweed, is always beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm like thinking now, why am I not doing that at work right now? Is that not on the menu?
Yeah, well, like I say, with everything that I did with Japanese cooking or Japanese food, dashi. I mean, it's more than just it's more than just useful in soup. I do it like as a poaching liquid for fish, and agadashi is one of my kids' favorites. Where tofu in literally in that dashi broth, but like I use kombu in so much of what I do for Japanese cooking.
I think we're using it also in a pea puree, actually.
Oh, yeah.
A little,
Okay.
little seaweed in our pea puree, just to give it add that little bit of saltiness and little sea-ness to
Yeah,
it.
so I'm when this episode started to form, I got really excited. I realized that we're on the horizon, or it's on the horizon, where we're going to start embracing using different seaweeds, and I'm really excited to see where things go. So what's your journey now? Where do you go with
Well,
this?
I was going to say, what got you into this journey? What got you into seaweed?
I mean, I've always kind of been interested in aquaculture ever since I did my undergraduate degree. Something about the way that my prof talked about it, like really kind of like just started springing ideas into my head of like what people can do. And, so I've always been interested in that kind of stuff. And then I ended up doing my master's in Newfoundland on sustainable aquaculture. I actually worked with crabs, which is another hilarious story. But I did so much reading on seaweeds because these crabs were herbivorous that I kind of got interested in that. And then I started this job at North Island College, and a whole lot of it is to do with seaweed. So now I'm kind of like in this seaweed world.
Right.
And I'm actually finding out that it is actually like really cool what people are doing around here and the research that's going on. and how it's developing around here. It's definitely one of the more emerging products from around here.
Right.
It's kind of cool that, I think it is kind of well timed. I think it's definitely something that is coming up and coming.
Right. So where do you go from here? Like or is that remains to be seen?
Oh, it kind of remains to be seen. Yeah, like I think the research is really cool, and I'm excited to see the research projects that we have come up in the next year or so to do with this. And I think they are going to focus more on that processing part
Right.
that I mentioned earlier. But, like all of that is super exciting to see what people are going to do with that end product. I'd love to see some more ice creams.
Well, it
beers, spirits,
it sounds like
that.
if we get that processing solved, the issue and the logistics of that, then it seems like all of a sudden the product's going to be much more abundant and abundantly available to people of the coast and on the island.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other cool thing is that, I think there was some kind of statistic that, over 90% of seaweed products are imported into North America.
Wow.
So there's, a huge market for it if you wanted to do something with it in BC.
Right.
So I think you'll start to see more kind of North American-made seaweed products.
Wow.
It's crazy too if you think about how pristine our waters are here. Like we've got some of the cleanest waters in the world for ocean waters. So it's like we're very lucky to have what we have out here. And so we're not harvesting that in something that's renewable and low
it
impact.
is one of the most renewable kind of things that you could farm in the ocean. It's just such a good plus,
Right. It's almost like salt where it's just like, well, there's an endless amount. You just have to put it out to dry.
Well, and this
now
is
you have salt.
Yeah, well, this is the one, and also is and I may be wrong, but seaweeds are one of the fastest growing plants on the planet. If I remember correctly, bull kelp grows a foot a day or something.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
sometimes in peak season they're absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, well, just from a feeding the hungry kind of standpoint, there's solutions right there. Fastest growing crops.
Yeah, and it helps protect the ocean too. The smaller creatures in there, it gives them a place to hide and
Right.
Yeah, that's the other cool thing that we haven't really touched on yet is it's being used a lot for restoration.
Really?
So there are some cool projects where people are putting it in front of watersheds, so it gives habitat for juvenile salmon and things like that.
Yeah.
And there used to be a lot more kelp, but those habitats have degraded. So now using it for restoration and mitigation efforts is a whole nother realm. So there are some cool things there.
Interesting. I wonder if that's what's going on. I know with Couscous, which is just out front of neck of the woods, which is a restoration project designed for the salmon. I see that they're trying to build very natural salmon ladders just in that estuary.
Yeah.
Or maybe not a salmon ladder, but there are lots of little nooks and crannies, trying to bring back that. I wonder if that's factors in there too.
they're taking down the killing wall, as they call it. From the old mill, the sheet of steel that sort of protects that or guards that area from opening up. But,
I think some of the other cool things that they're using it for is, like I said, the mitigation side.
Right.
And I think we've got a couple of little bits and pieces on the North Island College website. And we've done a few things with, putting it down in vertical lines to create habitat where there used to be kelp forests.
Kelp forests.
Yeah, just big rounds of where kelp used to grow.
Interesting. I would never thought that's a term.
Yeah,
Forests of kelp. That's
forests
interesting.
of kelp. For instance, an urchin front will just come and destroy that whole thing. It's basically just a line of urchins that eats everything in front of it.
Oh wow!
So then we've, been working on measures to, reintroduce. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
incredible.
it's very small scale. We don't do 10 hectares.
Right.
Doing a few lines to see if in that area it works.
Right. Yeah, there's a whole other world down there I didn't even really consider.
I think most of us forget that whole other world down there,
Yeah.
especially from an agriculture side of it. How do we best use our oceans?
Yeah, and that's a really important debate that's going on right now. There's definitely two sides to that story. Do we keep going with what we're doing with salmon because it's already established? Do we look at new species? Do we look at kelp? What do we do from here?
I've also, and I'm not trying to be controversial to anybody out there that's listening, but I've also heard or read rather, and I don't know if it's dubious or whatever, but I can see some merit in it. But I've heard some people saying that farming seaweed in the future is actually going to help us reduce climate change, partially just in the fact that literally the surface of the ocean, which is reflective and what have you, if you have the seaweed beds or the seaweed just below the surface, it's actually going to diffuse and reflect some of that sunlight that we're getting in. It can bring us down by 2 degrees, they said, if what properly used.
Yeah, I haven't seen that recently.
No, I haven't seen it either.
Cool.
And like I said, I hesitated to throw that in there, but it's just one of those things that I'm going to look into more now that you've got me thinking seaweed.
Yeah, I think the one that's really up for debate with kelp right now is how much it helps sequester carbon stores. So like you have your trees, which are big carbon stores, and they stay there.
Right.
When they die, they fall over, they kind of get buried. Your carbon stays in the ground.
Right.
With kelp, it's like a little uncertain what happens. Like, do the leaves break off and then like end up in deep water where they sit in the sediment and break down and they stay in the sediment and then you create a carbon store?
Right.
Or does it just keep getting recycled through that food chain?
Right.
I don't know. No one really knows. But in my opinion, I think we've lost these massive forests of kelp.
Right.
Like there used to be a lot more kelp in the past. If you bring that back, you're bringing back a carbon store.
Right.
So, like, in some ways, I think that it's got to be beneficial. It might not be as beneficial as what one would hope. But I think, starting off with some kind of benefit is always good.
Yeah, exactly. You're moving towards the right direction, whether it's the solution or just part of the solution. It's still part of it. Yeah.
I think the really interesting thing is you're starting from like a bottom-up effect. So you're fixing something at the bottom, and hopefully as things move up the food chain, you'll have more of a benefit up the food chain as well.
Right.
So you'll increase habitat for those smaller things that like the bigger fish eat, and then the bigger fish eat the bigger fish, et cetera, et cetera. So if you help that kelp habitat, you might help other habitats and other groups of animals by just planting kelp.
Interesting.
It's that whole circle of life, eh?
Yeah.
Circle of life.
Yeah, and as more industry moves towards it and more people start recognizing what it's capable of, even though it's being harvested, you'll start to see a lot more planted just because, or encouraged growths, just because now there's a monetary value to it and people are going to be, let's get some more in there. Let's get it going,
Yeah. Well, I think people will also look at it like one of those carbon stores, carbon credit kind of things.
Right.
Like you can buy your carbon credits and someone will outplant kelp.
Right.
And it'll create part of a kelp forest or something like that.
Right.
I think there might be some kind of interest there.
Right.
I'm not really sure.
Fantastic. Yeah. That's great. Well, this has been extremely informative. I've learned a lot, and there's a lot that I'm now going to go read up on.
I'm getting a little hungry myself, actually, too. Which is, I think, the first time I've ever gotten hungry thinking about seaweed.
I've got some nori sheets over there.
Oh, we can nibble on those.
We should be nibbling on those right now.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like it's one of those things that's going to start creeping onto menus in the near future. Like a lot more places are going to start embracing it and start using it a lot more places. I mean, it's basically, as you're saying, it's that availability and being able to, once it's in the market and traveling, and you're seeing things in the market going a little crazy right now, and things we used to get are disappearing and harder to get your hands on, and the prices are going up and up. And so, having something that's right outside our door.
Yeah. And generally speaking, menus reflect products that people can, or the restaurant or the chef can get on a continual, reliable basis. And as soon as that supply chain's there where it's continual and reliable, you definitely will see that start to be more prominent on menus, I'm sure.
I really wanted to do a fresh seaweed salad. Nice blanch and nice julienne salad and just some fresh ingredients in there. And it was a tough one of where do I get the product from? And it was like, well, we can get it in once a week.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm open 7 days a week.
I think the interesting thing will be in a year or two when they really get that processing part down. And it'll be a more consistent supply.
That's great. I look forward to it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming in and chatting with us today. Anytime. That was great. And we'll definitely keep in touch because I know we want to find out more where this goes, and you can tell us where you're going with the project. So
absolutely. That sounds great.
Okay. Well,
thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Logan.